Red light is burning. We are moving from the external harvest of the city to the internal engineering of the neocortex. In the era of synthetic labor and algorithmic dominance, your average cognitive state is a death sentence. The soft man is a biological relic, running on outdated neurochemistry and hampered by evolutionary safety limiters designed for a world that no longer exists. The architect knows that genius is not a gift from the gods. It is a pharmacological and metabolic achievement. We are entering the age of chemical genius, the systematic overclocking of the human brain to survive the intelligence explosion. Let's dismantle the naturalist fallacy. The soft man believes in natural intelligence. He thinks that trying harder or studying more is the path to the top. He is wrong. You are competing against AI agents that process billions of parameters per second and elite operators who are chemically primed for peak execution. To compete naturally in this environment is like bringing a knife to a drone strike. The architect views his brain as a biocomputational asset that must be overclocked to handle the data load of the modern grid. If your neural processing speed is limited by your primitive biology, you are a lagging indicator. You aren't genius, you are just slow hardware. The first move in chemical genius is the destruction of the inhibitory baseline. Your brain has evolved limiters to prevent you from burning too much glucose. It wants you mediocre because mediocrity is energy efficient. The architect uses neuromodulators to bypass these limiters. We are talking about the gray zone application of racetams, peptides like Nupept or Cmax, and specialized cholinergic compounds. These aren't drugs in the sense of the soft man's escapism. They are neural lubricants. They increase acetylcholine levels and brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, effectively greasing the synapses. You are increasing the bandwidth between your neurons. You are turning a dial-up brain into a fiber optic powerhouse. Furthermore, we must address synaptic plasticity on demand. The architect doesn't just want to think fast, he wants to adapt faster. In the current landscape, a skill that took you 5 years to learn can be automated in 5 months. To survive, you must be able to rewire your brain's expertise in weeks. This is where neuroregenerative peptides come in, compounds like cerebrolysin or P21. These are derived from porcine brain proteins and are used in the sovereign community to trigger explosive neurogenesis. You are literally growing new hardware to handle new software. While the soft man is struggling to unlearn his obsolete habits, the architect is flash-loading new mental models into a brain that is as plastic as a child's, but with the executive function of a warlord. The soft man is terrified of chemical intervention because he fears side effects. He doesn't realize that being average is the greatest side effect. The side effects of a natural brain in 2026 are poverty, obsolescence, and being algorithmically managed by those who did take the leap. The architect manages risk through precision biomonitoring. He doesn't blind stack pills. He uses blood work analytics and neurofeedback to calibrate his chemistry. He treats his endocrine system as a system settings menu. He optimizes his dopamine to serotonin ratio to ensure he is in a state of aggressive pursuit rather than passive contentment. He isn't high, he is optimized. One of the most critical chemical gates is the glutamate-GABA balance. Glutamate is the gas of the brain. GABA is the brake. The soft man is either overcaffeinated and anxious, too much gas, or sedated and lazy, too much brake. He is jittery or sleepy. The architect achieves neural equilibrium. He uses adaptogens and amino acid shuttles to maintain a state of flow, where the brain is firing at maximum frequency but with zero anxiety. This is the God mode of execution. It is the ability to maintain high-frequency focus for 12 hours without the jitters that lead to execution errors. You are a cold server in a hot market. We must also talk about mitochondrial high voltage. Your brain consumes 20% of your body's energy despite being only 2% of its weight. Genius is an energetic luxury. If your cellular power plants are weak, your cognitive resolution will drop under pressure. The architect uses mitochondrial targeted antioxidants like CoQ10, PQQ, and NAD+ precursors to ensure his neural voltage never drops. He is powering the CPU with a clean, high-voltage stream. This prevents the mental fatigue that causes the soft man to quit at 4 p.m. The architect is just getting started when everyone else has flickered out. He has the metabolic stamina to outthink the room. The soft man thinks genius is about creativity. reality. The architect knows genius is about pattern extraction. It is the ability to see the logic in the noise. This requires a high signal-to-noise ratio in the brain. By using vasodilators like ginkgo or vinpocetine to increase cerebral blood flow and anti-inflammatory protocols to remove neural edema, the architect clears the lens. He sees the gray zone moves before they are even legal. He isn't guessing. He is calculating in high definition. He has chemically removed the biological distortions that cloud the average human mind. Part 1 is the hard truth. Your natural brain is a bottleneck. You are living in a software world with analog hardware. If you want to be a founder of the new reality, you must become a technician of your own neurochemistry. Genius is not a personality trait. It is a chemical state of absolute clarity and high-velocity connectivity. The elite have been using these protocols for decades to stay ahead. It's time to stop being the subject of their genius and start being the architect of your own. The red pill isn't a metaphor. It's a pharmacological reality. The soft man views his brain as a static organ, a finished product handed to him at birth that slowly degrades until death. He believes that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. The architect knows this is a biological lie designed to make you accept your shelf life. We are now entering the era of the peptide revolution, where we stop trying to stimulate the old hardware and start growing new infrastructure. In 2026, the elite are not just smarter, they are physically more connected. They have utilized exogenous growth factors to force their neurons into a state of permanent plasticity. Let's dismantle the myth of neural decay. Your brain has a natural mechanism for growth called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. In the soft man, BDNF levels are abysmal, suppressed by high cortisol, chronic inflammation, and a sedentary digital lifestyle. His brain is brittle. The architect uses neuroregenerative peptides, specifically compounds like cerebrolysine and P21, to bypass the body's internal limiters. These are not stimulants that drain your battery. They are software updates for your biological motherboard. Cerebrolysine, a porcine-derived peptide complex, acts as a multivitamin for the synapse, providing the exact proteomic instructions needed for explosive neurogenesis. You are literally adding neural RAM to your system while your competitors are struggling with memory leaks. The architect understands the learning curve arbitrage. In the legacy world, mastering a high-level skill, be it gray zone logistics, complex coding, or multi-language negotiation, takes years of linear effort. This is too slow for the 2026 landscape. By utilizing peptide cycles during periods of deep learning, the architect achieves hyperacquisition. He triggers a state of long-term potentiation, LTP, where the brain glues new information into the long-term memory at 5 times the normal rate. He is flash-loading expertise. While the soft man is still trying to remember the basics, the architect has already synthesized the skill into his subconscious reflex. He has stolen time from the biological clock. Furthermore, we must address axonal integrity. Your brain's wiring is insulated by myelin. In the soft man, the myelin sheath is degraded by metabolic junk food and lack of high-voltage challenge. This leads to signal leakage, what you call distractibility or lack of focus. The architect uses myelin regenerative protocols. He uses compounds like Cmax and Selank, peptides developed for extreme environments, to strengthen the insulation of his neural pathways. This results in laser-like signal clarity. When he focuses on a task, 100% of his neural energy reaches the target. There is no leakage to social media, no leakage to anxiety, no leakage to fatigue. He is a directed energy weapon of pure execution. The soft man is terrified of peptides because they involve invasive procedures or unregulated compounds. He would rather stay safe and slow than be daring and fast. The architect knows that safety is a relative concept. Is it safe to be a low IQ participant in a world of hyper-intelligence? Is it safe to have a brittle brain when the totalitarian final boss is trying to hack your psychology every second? The architect manages biorisk with military precision. He understands that peptides are signal molecules. They are the language the body uses to heal itself. By speaking the language of growth, he is simply reminding his brain how to be young again. He is reversing the entropy of the mind. We must also talk about the neuroprotective shield. In 2026, your brain is under constant electromagnetic and chemical assault. The greed is hot. The inflammation tax we discussed before is real. The architect uses peptides as neural armor. Compounds like epitalon, the telomerase activator, are used to protect the genetic integrity of his neurons. He is preventing the cellular aging that turns genius into dementia. He is building a fortress that can withstand the stress loads of high-stakes gray zone operations. He doesn't burn out because his fuses are made of reinforced biological alloy. He can handle the the current that would fry a soft man's circuits. The peptide revolution also allows for circadian mastery. The soft man is a slave to his sleep-wake cycle. If he misses 2 hours of sleep, his cognitive output drops by 50%. The architect uses bioregulators to reset his internal clock on command. He can fly across 3 time zones, execute a sovereign pivot, and be neural baseline within an hour. He has achieved temporal autonomy. He is no longer a biological animal bound by the sun. He is an architect of light who decides when his processor is at peak load. He has decoupled his performance from his environment. The most profound effect of these protocols is the internalization of authority. When you can physically grow your own intelligence, you stop looking for external saviors. You stop caring about credentials and degrees issued by the failing grid. You know that your authority comes from the density of your synapses and the velocity of your processing. You become a self-validating entity. The soft man is looking for a guru to tell him what to think. The architect is chemically engineering the brain that will outthink the guru. He has seized the means of neural production. Part 2 is the technical realignment. Stop exercising your brain and start rebuilding it. The learning of the future is not about effort. It is about permissiveness. You must make your brain permissive to new data by flooding it with growth signals. If the hardware is open, the software installs itself. The soft man is trying to type on a broken keyboard. The architect is printing a new keyboard every cycle. The peptide revolution is the great equalizer for those who were born average but refuse to stay average. The soft man treats his mind like a black box. He feels good one day and bad the next, attributing his fluctuations to mood or luck. He is a passenger in his own skull. The architect realizes that a high-performance brain without a neuroledger is just a Ferrari without a dashboard. In the final stage of our protocol, we move from growth to systems management. You have the hardware, you have the chemical fuel. Now you must master the telemetry of your own genius. In 2026, the difference between a sovereign thinker and a pharmacological casualty is quantification and conversion. The first rule of the neuroledger is biofeedback sovereignty. You do not rely on how you feel. Feelings are the language of the soft man, easily manipulated by the grid. The architect uses wearable neurometrics and blood chemistry analytics to track his cognitive load capacity. He knows his heart rate variability, HRV, as a proxy for nervous system readiness. If the voltage is low, he doesn't push through and risk neural scaring. He pivots to recovery protocols. He treats his brain as a proprietary engine that requires specific maintenance windows. By quantifying his focus blocks, he knows exactly when he is generating alpha and when he is just spinning his wheels. He has turned his intuition into data. Furthermore, we must address the conversion of cognitive surplus. Having a chemically engineered brain is useless if you are using it to consume digital slop. The architect understands that intelligence is a perishable resource. Every hour you spend in an overclocked state must be converted into a durable asset. This means you don't think about things, you produce them. You turn your high-velocity processing into code, systems, legal structures, or strategic moves that have a long half-life. You are converting neural electricity into sovereign capital. The soft man uses his genius to argue on the internet. The architect uses it to build the parallel infrastructure that will survive the collapse of the state. We must also talk about the safety protocols of the overclock. When you run hot, you produce metabolic heat, neural inflammation, and oxidative stress. The soft man tries to chill out with alcohol or sedative entertainment, which only adds more trash to his system. The architect uses active cooling. This includes molecular hydrogen, high-dose melatonin as a systemic antioxidant, not just for sleep, and deep-state meditation to flush the neural lymphatics. He knows that the cleanup is just as important as the execution. If you don't clear the cache, your overclock will eventually lead to system failure. You must be a sustainable predator. One of the most dangerous traps for the chemically primed is dopamine dilution. When your brain is firing on all cylinders, everything feels interesting. The architect practices ruthless intellectual exclusion. He uses his focus dominance to ignore 99% of the world's information noise. He knows that genius is not about knowing everything. It is about knowing the one thing that matters. He applies his chemical edge to the gaps in the grid, the places where the lords of the grid are blind. He is a sniper, not a machine gunner. He saves his high-voltage bursts for the critical thresholds where one move can secure a decade of freedom. The final stage of the neuroledger is the exit from biology. The architect realizes that while he can overclock his brain, he is still limited by the meat-space constraints of a human life. He uses his chemical genius to build external minds, intelligence, AI agents, automated systems, and deep value teams that can carry out his intent even when he is offline. He is exporting his genius into the environment. He is building an external neocortex made of code and people. This is the ultimate goal of the sovereign operator, to create a system of intelligence that is no longer dependent on his own physical mitochondria. He has achieved cognitive immortality. The soft man is waiting for neural link or some external upgrade to be handed to him by a corporation. He wants to be transhuman with a subscription model. The architect has already achieved internalized transhumanism. He has taken the means of evolution into his own hands. He doesn't wait for permission to be better. He seizes the chemical keys to the kingdom. He understands that in the year 2026, the only unfair advantage is the one you engineered yourself. The neuroledger is the checklist for the new elite. Are your growth signals higher than your decay signals? Is your signal-to-noise ratio improving? Is your cognitive surplus being converted into hard assets? If the answer is yes, you are no longer a subject of the human condition. You are the architect of it. You have chemically decoupled yourself from the average. You have exited the bell curve. The genius is no longer a gift. It is your command. The grid wants you safe, slow, and predictable. They want you natural. The architect chooses to be artificial, fast, and chaos-proof. The hormonal war is over. The neural war is won. The ledger is balanced.